right. So, Lakes, Taylor Swift is buying websites that I saw today, and they happen to be all .porn.xxx. Are you her new manager? Is this your idea?
That's actually
This is
really
great.
awkward. Oh my gosh.
Come on.
Wait, come on. You're just bragging about this earlier.
This turned
Crownsandcrows.xxx
on
next week.
really bad. This really did, because I was the one that brought it up about I heard something, and Valor's like, oh yeah, by the way. And he told us all about it. I think he even linked me the article. So
This is our new show idea. Crowns and Crows.
There we go. .xxx.
Valor,
Each of us will be an X.
Naked Conan O'Brien as the host.
Subscribe, folks. Subscribe.
you guys, PG. It's PG.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dre, and with me is Valor and Lakes. This is Crowns and Crows, your Crown Football podcast, and now it's time for the rundown. Since last week, we have 2,346 Kickstarter users, $245,092 added. We've hit the 14,000 backer goal, and I think actually some more since the beginning of the day. Mounts and caravans are now a thing. We have even more confusion with the Eternal Kingdoms. $1.4 million hit, and Minotaurs at 1.5. And now the topics of the day. First, I mean, this wasn't really planned, but I think we have to talk about Minotaurs and Archetypes. And information has kind of been leaking all day with all the Q&A that went on Twitter. A couple of the updates kind of popped up after we finalized some of the topics. But Valor, earlier today, you were mentioning that you now have 13 archetypes, and you were wondering about that.
Yeah, I mean, you've got like the, 13 just isn't quite the even numbered. What I was actually able to see was in the Twitter Q&A that they did that Gordon actually responded to that and said they want to start including a lot more archetypes down the road.
There's tons.
There's going to be tons. I believe that is the direct quote, tons. Or lots, either way. And, my question is that going to be implemented via, a MOBA style, buy yourself a new archetype, or are they going to be free to everyone who's on VIP? How do they plan on implementing that? Because that's the sort of thing that a lot of games are monetizing.
I see. Let's call Gordon Walton up right now. How are you monetizing your game? Can you please tell us a year before you go live? I mean, I think if they're smart, they would sell them for a couple bucks here and there. I mean, like, wouldn't you go ahead and spend a couple bucks on a new archetype if then you had to spend $30 to switch over your character? So you're monetizing it two different ways.
Maybe, but you have to think, like, no one really understands their monetization plans.
No.
So who knows? Who knows exactly what they're going to do? Valor, you bring up a good point. Are they going to charge per archetype that they plan on bringing in? Or are they going to have them free? I think what they were talking about, because they were talking about every other expansion coming out further, they wanted it to be you buy the game, you get the game as it is, and everything that comes with it afterwards. So
sure, but here's
not be included.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, because Todd likes to talk about permanence and choices and making them matter. How do you go about adding more archetypes throughout the game when maybe what if one comes out that you really, really like? Do you have to go through all that passive skill training again just to get to the point you just spent the last year with? I mean, what
if they do something like Terra, where when they did release something a little later, you started off at a level higher than you would have. So instead of starting off at level 1, you get that, unlock it, then you can have, I don't know.
There's got to be something. There's got to be some kind of transition involved, because you can't just release, an archetype, 5 months down the road and then expect people to use it if they've already been putting all the passives, especially when you can't just grind out a character over a weekend if you play 48 hours straight.
I'm going to go out on a limb and disagree with you. I think that with the variety of skills, archetypes, and disciplines, etc., people are going to actually want to have a good variety to pick from. And as you can only do 3 passive. Is it 3 passive disciplines or is it 3 passive characters? I don't quite remember right now. But as you can only do a limited number at a time in terms of your passive skill training.
Well, I mean, you can train 3 skills, but if you have VIP status, I think you can train a second character also.
3. You can do 3 characters.
3 characters, they could all be passively training.
And they can all be passively trained. And so with that, you're going to have a couple different things. PvPers are going to have different types of PvP characters. Some of the hybrids of PvP and crafting, whatever people want to do. Mm-hmm. But with that, you start seeing the ability to implement a new archetype and have people pick it up and maybe they'll buy an extra character slot or to add to what they already have, or maybe they will simply just delete whatever they don't want to use anymore.
Well, I mean, but here's the thing. I mean, there's a segment of the population that loves playing alts and whatever. I mean, this is all guesswork, and it's probably a good question to ask the developers at some point. But when you're playing a game like this and you have the passive skill training, only certain people are the power users that have like 2-3 accounts that they can actually play at the same time. I mean, the most common user is going to have one account, one character, and that's what they're going to play. And I don't know. I just think there's probably going to be some kind of vehicle to either switch, transfer, and might have to do with money. And I think right now they're talking about how everything's permanent and whatever, but down the road they're going to want to earn money because in the end of the day they are a business. So I think there might be potentially there's an upgrade coming up. But I think we're getting down to the path. I mean, Valor, what's my one rule about this podcast?
No tangents. No tangents.
Or that, and if you say what if, or wouldn't that be cool?
Gosh,
that's my one rule. If we have to talk about what if, drop the subject going. So new archetypes. The Minotaur is some people's personal favorite, some Shadowbane, so I think a lot of people are excited to see that. Don't know what it's going to look like, but it's going to be pretty darn cool. But the first major topic, I didn't go over these during the rundown, but the first major topic I think is a hotbed that's being argued, I think, on every single message board out there, official, Twitter, guild forums, wherever there's discussion going about Crowfall, is what are the Eternal Kingdoms and how do they work? And we got actually a really good tidbit that kind of led into this discussion and kind of perfectly coincided with one of their updates this week about how the EK actually works. And one of the comments, I don't know who posted it. It was either one of the community managers, PR person, or one of the devs that popped onto their KS account. And this is a quote, says, "You can log on your EK or your campaign world with the same character. Your character cannot move things between the two while on campaigns, though." So it basically means you can log on. You can, if you could choose, go into your campaign, go into your EK. How do you think that affects gameplay, Val? I mean, that kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, and what it's allowing you to do is, the persistent thing of your Eternal Kingdom that you will need to go in and manage. It gives you the ability to go in and manage it. And, for me, a lot of that's going to come down to is, maybe there's a particular blessing that I want to have active. And I don't know if they're going to allow you to change blessings while inside a campaign.
So.
Is that locked?
That's probably locked once your character joins the campaign, because you can only set 3. Know.
Yeah.
Again, what ifs? What ifs?
What was that, Lake?
Yeah, go ahead, Lake. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that it would be kind of a broken mechanic, though, if you're able to go in there and you realize that you need this certain passive or whatever coming in. So it's something that they may look at, but I don't see them doing something like that.
I'm assuming you're not going to be able to change it only because you say you could choose 3, whether they're your relics or artifacts, whether they're your personal or your guilds. And assuming once you lock them in, let's say a guild changes and screws you over, you're not automatically going to be stuck with something. So I guess it's locked in regardless of what happens to your EK. But to the greater point, I think a lot of people were confused about is the game the EK, and then all of a sudden, because ArtCraft basically kind of left this as like a blank canvas, and it allowed everybody that's been reading about the game put all their wishes, all their beliefs, all their dreams that possibly can come true with technology into the EK. And this is what I'm going to be. I'm going to build a circus in my EK and invite everybody here and play games of catch and everything else, and we're going to have a great time. Or I'm going to be this merchant king and travel from EK to EK, and I'm not even going to touch the campaigns, and I'm going to be the most famous person in the world. I think, first of all, let's establish, before we talk about moving in between it, let's start from the beginning. What is the EK? What is the purpose for it? And why should people care about it? And what's your point of view on that first, Legs?
Well, they said that the EK is supposed to be one of those persistent things within the game itself, because you have the campaigns and they have an end to them. So the characters are supposed to be that persistent thing. You progress your characters, but you have something to show for your progress that you've made within the campaigns, within the EK. Right now, there's just a lot of information about the EKs, and are they going to be worth playing? Are you going to have to sit in your EK and do a lot of stuff? Is it going to be a huge trading hub? Is this going to be a social network thing? Are we going to really worry about cosmetics? Are they even going to sell things within the EK? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered about the EK, and right now, there's just not a...
Let's go over a couple of those points that you just put up there, because they're good ones.
Okay.
Are they going to sell things for the EK? Absolutely. I mean, that just look at the Kickstarter rewards. You got different parcels of land. You've got castles. You got different kind of skins. You got
Manners,
everything. Exactly. So they're going to sell stuff. I mean, every single game that's buy to play, free to play, always sells skins of something. And you're going to get a weapon and armor skin, so that's going to be one thing that they're going to repeat down the line for even campaigns. But more importantly, EKs, they're going to be selling all sorts of stuff. People, to me personally, it's just a giant player housing instance that you can jump from place to place,
Right.
and that's it, right? I mean, what
And
else?
cosmetics.
Purely
Like, that's
cosmetic. Purely
cosmetics, and you get your bonuses. They give you a little bit of extra benefit going within the campaign, so that's a reason to have an EK and kind of set it up, because you need to have a certain building to match with your relics to be able to have that that bonus going into the campaign. So there's value there. It's just not something that you absolutely need just yet, is my take on it.
Sure. I mean, I think what you're going to see is you're going to see some of the mega guilds or the mega popular streamers or whoever gets their name out there is going to end up building their huge EK, and that's where everybody's going to gravitate to. You're going to some popular hub is going to build up. That's where all the player housing is going to be. I mean, the player shops are going to be. That's where you're going to find materials to buy and most people to sell them to, because there's not going to be a global auction house as far as we know. I sent out during the QA a tweet saying, what are you going to use to build for currency for all these things? Or what we know, you're going to sell stuff. What are you going to use to buy with it? And Gordon Walton replied with, there's no currency. It's all going to be a barter system. So it's going to be a little bit mix of a Diablo 2 kind of, and now I can't remember what the actual currency was in D2.
Stones of Jordan.
There you go. Yep, that's it.
So Jordan or something like that.
Something like that. And so something's going to formulate. But again, it's going to evolve naturally, I think. I mean, Valor, can you think of anything else that's going to happen in the EK other than you got the player housing, you got the social stuff, and everything else like that? I think.
Well, yeah. I think that we talked a little bit, touched barely on the social stuff. Another thing that they answered on the Twitter conversation was there will be a actual global chat that spans all Eternal Kingdoms. So Eternal Kingdoms, they haven't really got into how easy it will be to move back and forth between, will there be portals? Will you have to build a portal and the other person will have to build a portal to you, and that creates a bridge? There's a lot of things that still left out there.
We're messing around with it, yeah.
Yeah, but that was a big question that I had was, how are communities going to be able to interact with the general populace? And that's something that I think they could even delve a little bit further into is, if a community is out there and they're looking to add new people, what ways are they going to be able to advertise themselves? Because in a lot of traditional MMOs, you have either a map chat, server chat, global chat, whatever it might be.
There's got to be something, absolutely. So that definitely. Okay, so let's go. I'm going to throw this question out to you guys because it's something that we didn't prepare for, but I think you could pull it off the top of your head. Lakes, we'll start with you. Top 2 misconceptions about the Eternal Kingdoms. Can you give me 2 of them?
So top misconceptions is people think that they're going to be like you need to have an Eternal Kingdom,
right.
And right now you don't. You can play the campaigns and strictly the campaigns, and that's the main part of the game. It's just like we were talking about earlier. There is some benefits to having the EK, and it's a social hub. You're going to have your castle where you can trade and stuff like that. I think that's probably one of the big misconceptions is you need to have an Eternal Kingdom, but everyone's going to have one from the start. So,
Vala, let's go. What's your number 1 then? With Lakes, we'll go back for your number 2.
I think that the number 1 issue with the number 1 misconception with the Eternal Kingdoms is that they matter. The Eternal Kingdoms are not the point of this game. As it was said, and I've quoted this a number of times, the Eternal Kingdoms are the salad bar to the steakhouse that is Crowfall. It is content that is there. It is not required, but it's just a little bit of a filler to give you something to come back to in between the campaigns. The campaigns are going to be what this game circles around.
ArtCraft has tried so hard to put out so many different analogies to describe the Eternal Kingdoms. It's the locker room. It's the salad bar. I mean, it's
soccer game, then the soccer season.
Oh, I mean, it should go to prove that if they have to come up with so many analogies that I think they need to. I mean, that last post that they came out did a great job explaining what you could do in the Eternal Kingdoms. But I think, and this kind of bridges to our next point before we go on, is how do they interact with the rest of the game? And I think there's a lot of misconception, maybe because they haven't tweaked it yet, and it requires a ton of people to actually maybe come up with these rules. But I think my number 1 misconception is that there's going to be PvE there, or the possibility of PvE. People keep asking about boss mobs and farming and killing stuff, and can't we just there's one person on the forums, and I'd hate to call him out on his idea. I mean, it's a great idea if you could do it.
I think I know what you're talking about.
But the guy wanted to start his own D&D campaign, and he wanted to be a GM of his campaign. I mean, you could actually do that. If you want to do that, you go to Neverwinter. They have a fantastic tool for that, but that goes back to my point where people putting all their their dreams and fantasy of like what you dream about doing in a virtual world. I mean, they're trying to force that on there, and there's only certain things you can do. I think it's going to be a really cool system, and I think the one preview of what the EKs could actually be is WildStar's housing system. I mean, he did a lot of good jobs with the plot and building up that type of thing, but just take WildStar's system and then multiply it by 1 billion with adding land and different stuff like that. So I think there's going to be some features on there. Now, the one thing that confused me from the start, and we still haven't had an answer for that, and we'll start with you, Valor. What can you tell us of what we know now about the import-export rules about an Eternal Kingdom? Because I think this confuses everybody.
You're going to cut me short on my second
okay, you got another one? Okay.
Yeah. Look,
raise your hand.
You gave us all two.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and kick off the second misconception. I think the second misconception, I've seen it brought up here, is that the EKs are going to be pay to win, where you can buy yourself success in the campaigns. And that is a massive misconception, and that's going to be, certain campaigns will have a significant import allowance where you can import, maybe 100% of whatever you want to bring in, you can bring in. However, if you lose half of it. Who knows? But the EKs are not going to be resource rich. There's no resources there. Everything you make is from campaigns, and you will use those to craft, barter, trade for what you need to go into your next campaign. Or you will simply spend those resources into your EK to build it up or build buildings, whatever it might be, and that will be a resource sink. So that is my second big misconception.
See, I was trying to segue into your misconception. Totally planned, calculated.
100%.
Import export was going to go right into that, but I think it kind of dovetails a little bit because you're talking about resources and gathering them and all that other stuff. The main misconception for me that I still haven't wrapped my head around, and we've gotten little things, and I got a couple quotes for the import export rules that we can go over. Yes, we know that there's campaigns have different rules. Some you can't bring anything, some you can bring everything, and there's everything in between that they said. We don't know what any of that means. It's just going to be out there, and they're going to play around with it. They have the ability to scale it up and down. But we're longtime gamers. We want to know actually how it works. We don't need how does it actually work? Do you drag and drop something into boxes and that brings it into a campaign with you? Do you flag something and say you want to bring 1,000 copper ore with you, but there's a 30% tax on this campaign? Do you lose 30% of your ore? Is it random? I mean, that's Valor. We'll stick with you again. Don't screw it up this time. What do we know about import-export rules right now?
All right, import-export rules, one, they're going to be different for every campaign. So, and it's directly related to risk versus reward. The more challenging the campaign is in a PvP scenario, if there's going to be friendly fire attached, that will change how the import-export rules work. I expect that this will not be a resource-rich game. We will be fighting tooth and nail for resources because we will need them. I don't expect people to just amass, hundreds of thousands of ore in the EKs, because I think that, if you lose on these, on certain campaigns, you just might have spent a month and got nothing out of it. All right, think about that, guys. That is one of the things that I think the import-export rules are going to really boil down to, is that people are really going to find that resources aren't as available as everyone thinks, and it's just so easy to collect, and what's the point?
You mean bringing into the campaign from your EK or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are concerned that you'll game the system, and you'll just you'll get a bunch of stuff from the dregs, and then you'll take them over to the faction or whatever other rule sets have a bigger import allowance. And so I really don't think that a lot of people are going to end up having a ton of resources. I think it's going to be a barren wasteland it'll be enough, but it'll be balanced in a meaningful way.
I mean, here's one thing. And like we were talking about the the monetization and stuff like that. I can foresee a lot of monetization going in the black market with this. Tell me what you think. Here's a scenario for you. You're going into a campaign. You got a major guild, and maybe you're not going into one of those Terminator style campaigns. Maybe you can bring, a certain amount of things, and maybe we'll touch upon this later, but there's also going to be tournaments and seasons that are, going for, actual records that you have to win. So winning is very important for your organization. So now you're part of this major guild, and let's say import rules for a campaign are very strict. Let's say there's only 20% or 30%. And you want to amass the most amount of materials you could possibly get. So where do you get all those materials? You can go to your EK and start buying up the market and getting ready for your stretch. Let's say you've been fighting in low export out of campaign or low import campaigns, and you're not bringing a lot of stuff out. What's to stop you, as a guild, collecting some money, going out there and paying real-world money via PayPal to buy everybody's copper ore up in the EK?
I was actually going to say that is a point that I was going to talk about. However, take that money and now you can buy it within the campaigns, because you can't bring everything with import-export rules. You can only bring so much.
Right.
So what if some bots, right? You have these bots or farmers that you pay for them to join your campaign. They'll import in that gold or whatever ore that you need in that campaign, so you get it right then and there.
Okay, I mean,
so it's the same thing, but opposite, right?
I think it's going to be interesting because they don't have a a currency right now. There's no gold, silver, and copper coins that you can play with. It's just you just have things and you can trade them. I think you might start seeing a real world value attached to some of these things. With like, I would think that a major guild, instead of going into a game and then waiting for people to get resources and bring them to you, or wait people to import them, that you'll try to get that done first, because maybe there's some easy mode campaigns that all these people are going to be farming, and they're 80% collection values, but because there's low risk, but there's not many resources, so they spend all 3 months gathering all the copper ore they possibly can, bringing it into the EK at like only whatever percentage that you can, sell it to your guild for a couple $100, and then you could destroy half of it, bringing it into the next campaign, but you're stockpiling a ton of it. I mean, I think that's a major advantage.
Right, and that's something that they may have to look at as a possibility. And I didn't think about it really until you started talking about pay to win, and like all these pay to win features just stuck into my head. And I was trying to think of ways that farmers can actually make a little money within Crowfall, and that seems like that could be a problem within the game itself. Is selling those resources to individuals for money, just botting it, whether they bring it to your EK personally to you or they bring it into a campaign for you. All that kind of stuff is just something else that they have to worry about, because you may not have the gold farmers, but now you may have people that sell copper and gold.
Well, that goes to the... I'm sorry, go ahead, Val.
Yeah, what I was going to say, one thing that's going to help is friendly fire. The ability for the community to police itself. I know that friendly fire is one of those things that not everybody's digs and is into, but while in campaigns, if you can have people out there who are going and just policing who's out there, doing whatever it is, I think that's going to help as well.
I think just to kind of end the subject on the bots and everything else like that, I think that since you can kill people and loot their stuff, that bots are going to be very minimal, because I would love to have a guy running around with a script and I can kill him after he farmed all day and take all their stuff. I think more likely you're going to have players selling in the EK once it's secure. But anyway, I want to talk about a couple posts Todd put up there about those import-export rules, because a lot of people were worrying about, is it random? Because a lot of people love playing the market, love playing the merchant, the crafter, that type of thing, and just manipulating people and prices. I mean, how many people, all they do is log on to WoW and play the auction house and amass millions and millions of gold buying and selling stuff? I mean, they have the most complicated and detailed add-ons that allow you to do that. So if Crowfall's smart and they're mimicking Eve, they're going to they should have a very intricate marketplace economy built in. So a lot of people, maybe ties into a misconception, they thought it was randomly taken away from you when you go from the EK into a campaign with the import rules. And to quote Todd, it says, Somebody was talking about it, says, yeah, I don't disagree about random. Random probably isn't the most elegant design. This is a design point that will most likely come back to later. They don't really know what they're doing. I wouldn't get too hung about it at this point. The key takeaway is that the FAQ is how to embargo works in general. So essentially, they don't have those things in place. And then, another point is, Todd followed up a little bit later, and it doesn't really, locked down. They certainly haven't locked down yet, and that's the keep reiterating on the different rules, how the different campaigns are different. Valor, if you were designing this game, how would you do it? I mean, what's this is going to be my one if of the show. This is the only what if. If you were in charge, how would you design the UI to do it and the functionality of importing from EK into the campaign with both resources and the gear and items that you have? And Lakes, since I ambushed you with a question before, I'm going to let you do the second one this time. Go ahead, Val.
Thanks. With this one, this is the sort of thing where, to be able to do this, if you did it randomly, I mean, that's like going into surgery with a hammer. You're just going to bludgeon it, and it's going to end up messy. By taking out that RNG of, am I going to get my stuff out? Now you have to figure out a way to assign value to the items that people will be wanting to take out. And in how you do that, if I had a choice, I would not go with a resource-based economy. I would go with a gold-based economy, and I would assign a value based off of whatever its current auction value was, or whatever it might be. And yes, people could try and game that system by tanking the market, but that's how I would allow it. And just if you have a piece of gold worth 200 units, and then you could only take out 400 units, and then you had all this other stuff. Well, okay, yeah, you could do 200 units, and then you can fill up the other 200 with whatever you want. That's how I would do it. I think that makes a lot of sense. Curious to see what they end up doing.
So basically, you're saying whatever that player has in their inventory, material-wise, you'll tax it in some kind of metric to a certain percentage that the campaign allows. What about the gear that you're wearing? Let's say you built the badass gear in the last campaign. See, this is another thing we don't know about exporting. Is let's say you won the game, you ended up with really powerful stuff. When the campaign ends, you win. You're the best player on the campaign. Does that gear come out with you? Does it?
I wouldn't let it. Honestly, I understand people wanting to, but I wouldn't let it. I don't see a need. I think that's the sort of thing that you go in, you take what you want to use in that campaign, you fight for that campaign, and your reward is what you take out. I don't think that the gear should be something. You can break it down for resources and bring some of those resources out if you didn't win or whatever that is. But I don't want to see people stockpiling tons and tons and tons of armor.
Well, you can't stockpile because maybe the only gear you can bring out is the stuff you're wearing. How about that?
I mean, I guess that's fair.
That's giant.
They want people to go into these campaigns as balanced as possible, so that new players could keep up with old players, and so that's one of those things where you start tiptoeing the dangerous line.
What do you think, Blake?
I was actually going to say the opposite of what Valor said, is that's one of those things that people want the rewards coming out. Like, you can bring your own set of armor that you maybe got. I'm not saying they're going to do that, but it's a little unrewarding to win a campaign or build this badass gear and not be able to bring it out to the EK. I think the big thing that's going to limit what you can bring in next time is those import rules. But the export, as far as the resources that you can bring, armor that you're wearing, I would say would be something that you can bring out, but like you're talking about the units and that kind of value as far as what you've gotten within that campaign will be limited.
What about this, Valor? How about we meet you halfway? How about you can bring the stuff that you're wearing out. However, because we know that there's item decay and limited repairability, you take a 50% durability hit every time you leave the campaign. So basically, you die twice with the gear. In the next campaign, it's gone or it's broken forever.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be okay with that. I think that's reasonable. The first time you die in the next campaign, your gear's gone. Yeah, I'm fine.
I think
That'd make me happy.
yeah, I think ArtCraft has a lot to design and play around with. How do you do the import export rules? Because I think it's a good idea to limit how you can go in and out of these things. It really creates the freshness of the campaign, but also gives a little bit of permanence between each campaign. I really like that part. It's going to be very tricky, and I don't envy the developers for figuring out what the heck they're going to do with that. They definitely talked about one aspect. Let's talk about this for a couple of minutes. Lakes, I'll start with you. The mentioned. Let me know if you remember this, because the details are a little foggy in my brain right now because I don't have it up in front of me. There was a central location where there was this magical bank that you could deposit stuff in, and that was the only way you could bring stuff out. The embargo. So, what about that way? I mean, like, that's the only thing. So you're going to be making naked runs into this thing and like lunge at it, try to get into the area where you dump all the stuff and then you die, and you hopefully get that UI open up fast enough. How do you think that's going to work and tie into the rest of the game?
I'd be guessing at this point.
Right.
Like you click on it, it maybe have something like a little box of space that you can put in. But it's going to be one of those things that
is that going to just
they're all over the map, so it may have to be a strategic value to it. But I think that's going to be one of those things where you're going to have to sit down, you're going to have to open it up, and you're going to have to click. So you're going to have maybe some backup or something like that.
I mean, I know it's going to become a PvP element because you got to defend it or attack. You're going to break your way through. Is that just going to turn into some kind of metagame, or are people going to ignore the rest of the campaign and
like a hotspot?
Yeah, I mean, like I love the idea of hotspots, but is everybody going to ignore the rest of the campaign and just play the embargo so they can get things in out? Valley, you're shaking your head now.
Yeah, no.
No?
Because I think Valor and I are almost on the same page. If we don't think that's going to be the specific, let's just play the embargo camp style of play, because that may not win the campaigns. Like, just take the rule set of the Bloodstones. And if you're camping my embargo over and over again, but I'm capping these Bloodstones and bringing them to where I need to go, I may be losing a little bit of resources, or someone else from my guild may be losing those resources, but you're going to lose the campaign because I'm winning. I have the points. I'm gathering it. So you may get a little bit out of it, but you're not going to be, if you lose the game, you're not going to be able to take majority of that stuff you won out.
I agree with you guys. Well, let me play devil's advocate here. Let's say that you're winning points. I mean, it's a long campaign, so it's not like Guild Wars 2 where you're getting points for the end of the week. It could be a long campaign. What about camping at people that are just dumping it in there? And wouldn't it, serve like the Lords of the Dead a little bit to have a little squad over there trying to get those people trying to sneak in and just nab all their stuff and kill them?
Oh yeah, well it's going to be a great way.
Game, right?
It's going to be a great way for smaller communities to sit down and actually get something out of it. You're able to go into a campaign, camp a particular thing. Every map being unique, there's going to be different points of interest, and from those points of interest, they're going to be caravan routes. So those will be different on every campaign map, and people will be able to go in and camp either the caravan routes or the embargo vaults. And then there's going to be some of the bigger guilds or alliances or whatever springs up, and they're going to be doing the keeps or whatever building structures that you've got. And so that's one of the cool things I like about this game, and hopefully they do it better than Guild Wars 2 did with their little caravan system. And these things are meaningful. You get something out of them. Yep. You can take them back. But so I don't think that everything's just going to circle around the embargo. Sure, during certain aspects of the campaign, it will be heavier around those points. But for the most part, I think it's going to be a pretty balanced system.
Well, let me ask both of you: did either of you play ArcAge to any kind of degree for a while? Valor, you said you played it.
I played it for about 6 months.
Yeah. Now, can we learn anything from player behavior or how players work when you're doing pack runs with something like this?
You know what? On the Allo server, there was actually a guild called Tractor Team 6, and what they did, they stayed small, but they just griefed people. They'd find those little points on the map, and they would keep you from being able to run your packs. They couldn't take them, but they would just grief you. Expect that. There will be tons of griefing in this game. It'll be glorious, it'll be beautiful, and thankfully, due to it being a PvP game, it will be bloody. I think that what we're going to see is people are going to be a lot more careful. They're going to plan out when they run their resources, and they will plan out defense for their caravans. And the people who don't and they just risk it, those are going to be the easy pickings.
Yeah, and I think another point to discuss, I think we should discuss briefly, and I think this leads to a greater point that's probably a topic for another show, is building a map, points of interest, hotspots, and how to actually make really scaling dynamic PvP rather than just running around the map, no matter what size it is, kind of doing one objective after another, where you really have to have some kind of level of stratagem about, like, protecting the mill, protecting the camp, whatever. Does any of this, the addition of mounts and caravans that that just got added to the base game, Lakes, do you think this kind of really changes anything in their design element, or this just makes maybe maps a little bit bigger?
I think the mounts definitely make the map bigger, and that was one of the things that they were talking about for the reasons why they needed to make mounts earlier than later, was they had to figure out the size of everything. So I don't think it's going to change the concept or overall design. I think actually they had all this stuff kind of in the back of their mind to begin with. I think they wanted caravans, they wanted mounts, they were just kind of waiting to release that information. So I think a lot of their gameplay development and plans were all around that idea. They were just kind of waiting.
No change.
Right, no change. It's not going to throw a wrench into their deal going on, so I think they're good.
I think that we answered a lot of questions about the EK, and I think we're probably confused probably more people than we helped, I bet. But I think we went over a lot that, again, there's really not that much information. There's bits and pieces, and I don't think there's anything that we can kind of formal that we can bridge some of these things. It's a lot of speculation right now, but I think this is going to be a topic that's going to continue to be hot. People are going to want certain things because they're going to see the leniency of the development team saying, we don't know yet, we're waiting for feedback from the community, and they're going to see this as, let's try to turn this game all about into the EK. So hopefully, and I'm pretty sure Todd is rock solid on his vision. He's not going to be deterred by making another Minecraft game. He's going to be making a campaign game. So I want to take this moment to point out a couple things. Lakes, when you're not talking and you're typing into something, you're just staring straight ahead into your camera and you do not move whatsoever. You have... I
mean, we're talking statue.
No facial expression. You're just like this.
It's almost scary.
Maybe like
I thought you're... No, because I saw you blink. You have...
muscle memory.
You are a statue, my friend. That takes talent, I have to say. We're going to get to it. Their next topic that we're going to hit up is going to be... This is a rehash of the show right before I joined. You guys were talking about animation lock and that type of thing, and combat. There's a lot of stuff going on about the forums about this right now, and all over Twitter and everything else like that. The little interlude here before we get into the animation. Tomorrow night, if you guys are around 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central, did I get that right, Valor? The time's right?
So yeah, 9. Whoa.
9
yes.
Eastern, 8 Central?
Well, here, let me take this one, actually.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so the big announcement that we've really been holding on to is, the ArtCraft team has reached out, and they have asked if they can do an interview, and we will host them at 9 Eastern, 8 Central. And then preceding that cast, they will actually be on the Golden Glory live stream, who they will be grilling them, getting them warmed up for us. And then, we're the type of guys that we don't really hold any punches, so we are going to go after them and get as many hardcore answers as we can possibly get on this game.
We're gonna give it a shot.
We're gonna do our best, and do our best not to take we're not ready to talk about that yet as an answer, because that's dev speak. That's dev speak. Hey guys,
don't need that.
So this is one of the big exciting moments for us. Is we're going to get the devs actually on our stream. You guys will be able to interact with them. We'll take questions from y'all, of course, and
crownsandcrows@gmail.com.
crownsandcrows@gmail.com. Be there. This is a special cast, both for us, both for Golden Glory, tomorrow night. All right.
I see Airwolf in chat. I believe the Golden Boys are going on at 8 o'clock Central, or 8 o'clock East. I'm sorry, right before us, 8 o'clock East.
Yep.
See, you Central people get me my mind all twisted. You're talking Centrals and the ArtCraft people. Everything's Central. No one lives in the Central time zone. Come on.
What about Hawaii Standard Time?
Oh my
God.
Keep the Islander.
And I'm like, I have to figure out every time zone, including European. It's insane.
You're barely American out there.
Oh,
I know, right? It's a good thing you've got beaches.
There you go. That's it. Okay, so I mean, because of that, we're going to have Todd. We're going to have Gordon. We're also going to have Tommy B on, the combat guy, and he's and this is going to be a sore subject for him because I want to talk a lot about it. Hopefully, we're not going to be able to nail him down because I think he had a forum post today, and I think my boy Vitality mentioned it on the Rerolled forums that, look, guys, I'm not going to answer this because all my answers is going to be wait and see. We're going to be testing. We're wait and see. We're going to be tweaking this, that, and the other. So nothing's really locked down about the combat system, and that's what's going to make the next topic a little bit hairy. And I think this is not going to be this conversation about animation combat and all those other details are not going to be specific to Crowfall, but more of explaining why certain developers do things like animation lock. What does that mean? What games actually use it? How it's terrible when you do it the wrong way. How it's very good if you do it the correct way. And hopefully tomorrow night we can get Tommy B to kind of go over maybe not what they're going to do, but maybe his take on the different philosophies of game design. Maybe we can kind of get a little bit into his brain about what he thinks and what he might have in store. So that being said, let's kind of go in. I know you guys were dueling it out a couple of weeks ago about it. Lakes, you were all about not having animation lock whatsoever, and Valerie, you were kind of on the fence with a certain amount of things. Lakes, let's start with you. You kind of went over the typical, I don't like animation lock, and you basically had the prototypical debate against it. And I was actually on your side before I played Terra for the first time. So let's go over what you consider animation lock and why you don't like it.
So first of all, there's animation lock. I would say I call animation lock like hard locks, to where that combination is a skill set comboed for a long period of time. That's what I'm kind of against.
Define long period of time, though, because people are going to have a lot of misconceptions about
so if you were to combo a huge skill and it's like a long dash and like a swing up kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So that would be a long period of time where you're stuck in this animation of maybe 30 or not 30, like 5 seconds or something like that, like something real small. But I like the ability of being able to cancel cast within that thing. I think it brings a different dynamic into it, and you can have it, but overall, we were talking about animation locks and how I don't like those long, drawn-out things. I like mobility within those style of animation locks. So everything should have a cast time.
Can you have too much mobility in combat?
You can. But that could be limited to your character that you're playing or your archetype and the armor. There's a lot of things that weigh you.
In the grand scheme of things, can you have too much mobility, whatever your archetype is?
Absolutely.
I mean, absolutely. To me personally, I don't like it when you can strafe around characters constantly attacking, bunny hopping, and doing all those type of things. I think that doesn't really add. The only skill it really adds is your ability to move your mouse really quickly and enhance your twitch skills. So you don't like animation lock because it puts you in a certain direction and you just have to watch yourself miss and get whacked on because you accidentally went in the wrong direction. Is that basically the...
Right, and I like the micro of being able to cancel cast, bait out certain skills to where I make people react to me. It's a whole different ballgame when you have someone that's really skilled at cancel casting spells, attacks, whatever the case might be, and making... It's like a feint in boxing.
Absolutely.
So you're making people react to you, and then you're able to outplay them. You're baiting out specific skills. Like, what if something ranged has a skill that's able to dash backwards? So if you jump in, you're going to die. So the only way you could kill them is to bait it. So you bait it, your thing goes on a smaller cooldown, but they jumped back anyway, and you're able to kill them afterwards.
That's what they did in Guild Wars 1 with the Mesmers. Well, even Healer. I mean, a lot of the casters, really.
Right.
You would begin a precast and wait for somebody to bite, and then you'd cancel that, and then your team would pounce on them overextending.
Right, and that's a whole different dynamic, and I think I wasn't able to clarify myself last time when we talked about it, Valor and I know Jason and I were going back and forth on Twitter about it, and he brought up some good points, but I don't think I explained myself well enough to really bring out my points of there's a huge, with everything involved within the combat system, and I'm interested because tomorrow I'm going to have tons of questions on the combat system, so thank God they're going to be there. But in my mind, I love micro because that really makes the good PvPers you could see the difference between good PvPers and great PvPers. Somebody that could just bait you to death or not bait you because they've been feinting you this entire time. Like, it's just a huge skill.
There's definitely a back and forth in an action-based PvP, and you're definitely right. And a good combat system allows you to do that. Now, let me, from my point of view and my experience playing video games for a very long time, blah, 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 blah. Valor, jump in if I'm saying anything that you disagree with that or are missing. Essentially, animation lock, what it does is, the reason for animation lock, it gives your character weight and feeling. Typically, in World of Warcraft, WildStar, the Old Republic, there's a two-axis animation system. You have the animation for your legs and your waist as you move all over the place and jump, and then you have the top torso of your body that basically casts a spell, does an animation, whatever, whenever you press a button, as long as it's instant. So you have those two things that are moving, and it kind of looks silly. That's why you can sometimes face directly to the right, but face at a 90-degree angle and shoot somebody, and it kind of looks kind of silly. Animation lock takes your whole body in motion and gives it weight. You actively see a character charge, do a swing, and it kind of just puts the character properly in the set of frames. The only problem is, like you said, you're locked into that. Now, there's a couple things that you can play into that. I mean, when your animation lock doesn't have to be a 3-second charge up time that you're just screwed. Maybe you have a character with a giant large axe, and if you actually land, it does a lot of damage. That's the Berserker in Terra, or you have the warrior in Terra that has two swords and basically is dashing and tumbling all over the place. And this is something, Lakes, that you might not know too much about, but the video's all out all over the place. You can do dashes, but you can do it in small jumps. So as you land, you can redirect. Like if you're going forward, right, you can press back and do it back, or go forward. And there's multiple places. Not only that, you have to balance breaking out of an animation. It's got to have a penalty involved with it. Maybe it's a stagger penalty. Maybe it's a less damage penalty. Maybe you lose energy, mana, whatever resources that you might have. But animation lock provides counterplay. And I think it's incredibly important to have in a skill-based PvP system, especially one with collision and physics. You're going to need to be able to tell when somebody's doing something so you can react to it. And that's why, kind of bringing in the telegraph system a little bit, I prefer my telegraphs to be a character's animations and not a glowy field on the floor. And we'll kind of talk about that in a minute because that's a whole other subject. But Valor, I mean, you were kind of on the fence. To you, what reservations do you have about a Terra-like system?
For me, the biggest thing is in PvP is the immersion and how you're able to really focus on the players you're fighting and what you're not drawing your attention to. For instance, if we're talking about telegraphs or anything like that. I mean, I don't want to be focusing on the ground. I don't want to be focusing on necessarily what's going on above people's heads. I want to be able to focus on what they are actually doing,
sure.
Following them around. If they get rooted for a particular cast. That's the sort of thing that I want to be able to focus on is, what is their character actually doing? And so I agree with you I don't particularly want shiny, glowy things overhead. That might make it a little bit challenging in some regards. But at the same time, one of the big things that people have really struggled with in terms of, roots and animation locks is how do you deal with canceling an animation? In Guild Wars, I don't think there's really much of a penalty for canceling an animation. It might have put your skill on a cooldown.
You might not need one. I mean, it's all about balance ultimately. I mean, it's something to test.
So maybe there's an exhaustion. Maybe there's something along those lines. But I think that being able to have that risk versus reward. If you want to go ahead and you want to cast some big, massive, high damage skill, then there might be some sort of root. Or if you're melee. If you're melee, what I would say is instead of there being a root, because rooting melee is just mean, I would go with canceling that creates an exhaustion or puts it on a full cooldown or something along those lines. So where canceling that animation would be a big deal, but at the same time you're not getting stuck trying to hit somebody with a hammer while they're just running away.
Real quick, they answered something about animation locks and canceling real quick, and Thomas actually was able to answer it with, you're able to break that power by using something like a blocker evade move, and that really makes sense because that's the big time where you may want to cancel your cast. Like if you have a long build up on a huge spell, you're able to block that incoming damage, because that's the only reason why you may cancel it specifically, is because someone's going to come and they're going to jump on you and you're going to be focus target. So that's a really cool concept, and I think that's a great way to go about it. But I also wanted to clear up that animation locks, to me, aren't long cast times for spells. Specific spells should have long cast time, and they should have those graphics that show what that spell's going to be. Mm-hmm. I don't like telegraphs on the ground, so I'm exactly with you, Jason. I don't like those things all over the ground.
Let's table that for about 5 minutes from now. 'Cause there's a whole thing about telegraphs and non-telegraphs we can go over.
We'll talk about that, but as far as animation locks go, I was talking about long combinations of spells where you're kind of stuck in that animation for a long period of time, and it really sucks for Melee. I think that's one of the biggest downfalls for playing Melee in Terra. There's trade-offs. You were behind a little bit if you weren't using your skills or positioning properly. You didn't have the movement to kind of make up for it in Terra. But if you played it right, you were able to catch them. You benefited greatly because you do a large amount of damage. If Melee can get to you, they can essentially kill you. That's the worst thing possible, right?
But I mean, here's the thing that it's kind of universal through all games with some kind of animation lock, and that goes all the way back to fighter games, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Soul Calibur, any of those things. Is, you have typically in those you'd have short, medium, and long attacks, punches, or kicks or whatever. In a lot of MMOs, sometimes what differentiates you between attacks A, B, and C? It's usually I had a talent that augments A, or the cooldown say I have to rotate the 3 of them, or whatever. But if we're in an energy-free system, you want to use attack A because it's a quick, short attack, and that quick, short attack actually means something. You have attack B, that's kind of a medium attack, medium damage, and a long attack that's long, that hits hard, and it's got a longer animation cycle to it. So I mean, there's now there's that skill level. When do you use certain attacks, and when do you not use them? And it actually makes having multiple attacks that are similar but varied strengths and weaknesses to them gives you that risk versus reward. And then that goes to your baiting out aspect. Maybe you could bait in with a quick attack, and somebody might think you're going in for a long attack, and to use your mobility to deflect and boom, hit them with deflect, stun, and hit them with a bigger attack or whatever kind of capabilities that archetype might have. But I think there's that playability that people are talking about. At least me, that gets me excited about a Terra-based combat system. Is there's read and react to it. There's not like Arcade where it's just here's my cast rotation. I hope I hit as many people as possible, and hope for the best.
So one of the best games I think that did a great job with cancel casting and reading into a lot of animations is Valor actually mentioned it when we were talking about it. Was Guild Wars 1, and you had specific classes that could interrupt a spell cast animation. So that cast is 1 second long. You have quarter cast spells that you can interrupt, whether it be a ranger or a mesmer or something like that. Kind of intricate play is really cool, and I haven't seen that kind of concept in a long time. So I think Guild Wars 1 PvP, as far as animations go and the interrupts and cancel casting, I think they did it right.
No, absolutely, and I think, again, an animation lock doesn't mean you're sitting there for five seconds doing nothing. I think there's definite balance that you can add to it. I mean, did we not see those character creation screens with 1,000 different stats in them? I mean, you could have dexterity and speed stats that speed up your animations. Terra actually has that, where if you're a high-level character with some of the better gear, your animation speeds are like twice as fast. So there's a definite playability with that when it comes to stats and character building also.
Do you guys think that what it's going to end up is do you think there's going to be like a stamina and a mana bar? I mean, I'm just kind of trying to figure out how they're going to handle cancel casting, and is it just going to be cool? Not really sure what to expect on that.
It's probably
cooldowns.
It's probably going to be a combination of all of them. I mean, you're going to have cooldowns and bigger skills. You're going to have your energy or mana. I think if they're smart, they're not going to go the WildStar route, and every character is going to be a combo point-based class with energy or mana. I think if they're good at developing classes, they're going to come up with unique ways to develop resources for those classes, I think.
Are you questioning their skills?
Sure. I haven't seen anything yet, so of course I'm questioning it.
Quick hitting question.
Okay.
All right. Each of you, how many skills do you want to see active on a bar in this game?
I'll go first.
Go ahead.
I hate double bars or triple bars or 5 bars. I think that It's annoying. It's terrible, right? I think everyone should have a set amount of skills, very limited, and I'm not talking 3 to 4 skills, but I'm not talking 20 skills. I'm talking very roughly around 10 to 12 skills at max. And to me, that adds a lot of depth to your character, because now you have to build a specific way, and you don't get all the flavors of what you want to build. All those disciplines building up into your archetype, and you're making a specific class. You have to pick and choose what you want on your bar to be effective. And if you don't have it, well, that sucks, man. Try again.
I'm going to back Lakes up with a couple questions for you, Valor. What is the most popular online game right now out there?
Subscription-based, you're going with World of Warcraft.
No, it's League of Legends.
Oh.
Yes.
How many active skills?
Subscription-based. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like the most people that are playing online right now.
Yeah, online game, League of Legends.
Is League of Legends. They made billions of dollars last year.
Yeah.
How many abilities did they have? It's off the top of your head. Do you remember?
Four?
You got 3 common, 1 ult, you got 2 summoner abilities, and any of the clickies that you have in your inventory. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6 to maybe 9, depending if you have a lot of clickies. And you can easily expand from that and going with, I think personally, 7 to 10 is pretty good. If I have to start mapping out an extra keyboard with alts and controls, it's just,
I've never been a big fan. I can show you my mouse right now. I've got, let's see, 2 buttons on each side and a button in the middle. And I don't want to have a freaking keyboard for a mouse.
If you're not playing with one of these...
No, I've got one of these nice ones.
No,
you
got to play with the G13 or the Nostromo or whatever else you want to play with. One of those.
So I love this mouse, but I honestly hate having to keybind so many things that I have to use this. Like I only got this because I was playing MMOs or games where I have like 101 different skills, and now I have to keybind, and it looks like I'm typing and pushing buttons everywhere. It's so annoying. Yep. And I'm not doing a big thing for like Razer or anything, but it's a mouse that I have to use, I think, to keep up with the current way games are going. And I really think that limiting that is going to be the goal, at least that I would like to see.
Yeah. Well, and my answer to that is I would like to see probably 5 or 6 active combat skills, and then maybe 3 passive defensive skills. So, those could be your keybinds for quick hitting stuff, whereas the rest could be your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatnot. I don't want to see more than that. That's just me. I'm not a big fan of it.
I don't think a lot of people are. I think a lot of people like to have multiple hotbars because they like options, but theoretically it's they don't ever use them or whatever. But I'm going to cut this one short. I just want to touch on, before we go to viewer questions and wrap the show up, there's the discussion about telegraphs. I said we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes. Let's talk about it now. I hate telegraphs. We'll do quick shots all around. I'll go first. I hate telegraphs only because you end up playing the ground, just like in raiding and PvE games. You're playing standing out of the fire, so all you're doing is you're sitting there staring. Okay, there's a green space, there's a red space. I'm not going to stand here. I'm going to move, and then you don't look at your character. You don't look at the rest of the screen, and it's simple as that. It's just dumb. Go on to the right, to Lakes. What do you think on that subject?
I also agree. I don't like telegraphs for several reasons. One, they plan on putting in friendly fire, and I think one of adding the complexity of not being able to see where that guy's casting behind you is going to be awesome.
Sure.
It's going to help control that Zerg a little bit, and I don't like the cluster that goes on. It's very consuming when you're playing a game. It's not pleasing to the eye to see all these abilities and circles and lines all over the place, and especially when you have multiple people fighting each other, it gets a little annoying.
Yeah, I'm going to go outside the box on this one, and I don't know if you guys have been hit by like a meteor shower lately, but it's not fun. I would say that don't go with the traditional red circle. Go with shadows. If something's going to fall on your head, put a shadow there. It doesn't have to be a color. It could be it's friendly fire, so you don't have to worry about red circles, green circles.
Sure. Okay. Well, you're adding your physics and lighting engine.
What if the sun's in the east? Right,
you know
so it throws the shadow off.
You know what? Wait, you just hold on to that one, buddy. Throw a little shadow.
There's
under
my
it.
what if rule right there. Come on.
Yeah, throw a little shadow under it. I'm okay with a very simple, tastefully done, an arc of a sword, something along those lines. Very, very simple stuff. I don't want to see colors. I don't want to see reds. I don't want to see greens. I just want to see some shadows.
All right, let's wrap it up there. Let's go on to Audience questions, and this one here is from Gworg. We're probably going to be answering his questions for the next year. He sent in a whole bunch, but thank you very much. Keep them coming.
Hopefully he's watching.
Yeah, hopefully he's watching either now live or on YouTube later.
Yeah, you can always catch us on YouTube.
We're going to go question number 10. Should there be registration for each campaign in the days prior to see who is going to participate? Should there be sign-up sheets for campaigns? In-game, not like on the forums.
No, I don't think so, because what if you're trying to dodge people? Yeah, it's like if I'm queued up for a campaign, like, what if somebody's trying to dodge me? I think it's kind of cheap to see who's going into that campaign because they're trying to dodge me, or I'm trying to dodge somebody else because they just completely beat me the last time. I think you shouldn't be able to see, and it's one of those things where if you can see, it brings into the other question is, can you see what character they're queued up in? There's too many problems with that whole system, right? So I think not having it all together would be a good idea.
I'm going to be Todd and say maybe on some campaigns we can have that. Who knows? Anything.
Oh God! I feel like this is the generic answer. We've got two answers of we're still talking about it, and well, maybe we can do that for some campaigns. We'll see how it goes. For that, I hate the idea, because I know there are guilds out there who do this. I hate the idea of guilds going into campaigns intentionally avoiding quality competition. They want to get out there. They want to say, "Oh, we won this campaign." Who freaking cares if you brought this massive guild and you're playing against a bunch of pugs? So that is why I think it would be neat to have this kind of system. But at the same time, you're going to run into the same issue. People are just going to be dodging it anyway. I think at the end of campaigns, you need to have a list of participants.
Absolutely, and I think let's write this down for the next show, because it was brought up by Tuco on the Rerolled forums earlier. It's about how do you reward players for participating in campaigns, leaderboards, that type of thing, tracking. I think that's a whole good discussion we can have about that. Next question comes from, we answered one of his questions last week. We're going to answer another one this week. RatGod2000 asks, will you consider making some exotic, difficult crafting agreements or combinations a secret? And this is a shout out to the Golden Boys, who I think their show is starting or has been going on for a couple minutes right now. This could add to the appeal for crafters to experiment, make their items more lucrative while also adding to their fame. So, long story short, should certain crafting recipes be secret until you figure them out? Lakes.
I think so. It adds one of those dynamics to the crafting guys out there. I think a lot of people that want in-depth crafting definitely like that kind of system because they like toying with different recipes and trying to. Right, because what if you're the only person that figured out this awesome, cool thing? You can benefit from selling this specific item over and over again because you're the only one that knows it. So I think it's a cool thing and adds dynamic to how good crafters are and whether they have those resources to test out everything.
Val, let me put a big guild spin on this. Do you think that's a good thing if you want to hoard the secrets of the crafters in your guild? Because I know you're a PvPer, you're not a crafter. Is that something you like, or are you going to get insanely jealous if some other guild figures something out and that's just going to piss you off?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that all the big communities and even small communities are going to push for. I think that I would love to see such a wide variety that it does not get chronicled quickly. Looks like Arthadon here already called out. It's like, hey, it's called a wiki, guys. There are no secrets. And, it's one of those things. The hive mind always prevails. People will always figure it out. They will always chronicle it. But guilds will definitely use it as an advantage as long as they possibly can. But with gear not being as important, it probably won't be that big of a deal.
All right, I think we should snag one more. Here's a question. Valor, have you been taking a look at chat? Is there anything there that you think we want to answer, or do we want to wrap up here?
Well, I don't know. Do we want to take Gon's question? I'm not really sure. He didn't get answered on Twitter today, so we should probably.
All right. How about we give him a pity answer, because we are amazing.
I'll answer his question. Go ahead.
What was his question? Go ahead. Shoot it out there, Valor. Did you lose it?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So the question is this: should you be able to see the winning/losing side in a campaign before you join it? So after the campaign's been up, you still have that window to be able to join. Lake, do you think you should be able to see which side's winning?
Yes.
At a certain point, yes, absolutely. Because what if you do come in later and it's on that tail end of a campaign and someone just completely dominated the board? I think that because you're locked. Once your character goes in, they said you're locked, right? So that's a decision that you should be able to make once the campaign started for a period of time to know that what you're getting into. So I think that's at a certain point, yes.
Well, I mean, here's the only reason why I'm saying yes. I mean, there's pros and cons of saying yes or no to keeping it hidden and all that other stuff, and like you just hit up on one side of that. But I think the other side, from a person that's doing a show and the person that runs websites that cover the game, absolutely, because I want to talk about what you guys are doing in the different campaigns. I want to report some badass guild took over XYZ, or there was a badass fight. I want to know what's going on, and there should be in-game. We talked about this last week. There should be in-game tools that allow you to kind of see what's going on. So the community, it builds community, builds awareness for the game, and I think you can't really do that without letting people know which side's winning or losing. And plus, I don't think you can keep it secret. I think you go on the official forums and have some team's going to be bragging about it anyway.
Weren't we talking about some kind of obs mode earlier too?
Yeah.
Oh man, that'd be fantastic if they could actually pull that one off. It's one of those things that
tomorrow.
Wait, we'll write it that one down. But I agree with you, but not to just turn this into a big circle jerk of agreement. I think that they should lock it. After a certain point, if one side reaches a threshold of winning, lock it. Don't let people join it.
Well, you might just get a desolate campaign, and it's not fun for the winners anyway, too. So you might get things like that too. So let's look at too far. I mean, there's definite. Maybe you can lock a certain side. You mean?
Yeah, just lock one side.
Faction.
Lock the winning side. Lock the winning faction if it's a 12 faction. Lock the winning faction. Force people to go in there, make it competitive.
I like that. Okay. All right, let's end it there, guys. It was a great show. Thanks for everybody watching. We hit new viewership records. We hit at least 650 people. No, 650
online.
people. Whatever. Okay. Whatever. You can always find us on YouTube at Crowns and Crows, youtube.com/Crowns and Crows. You can follow us on Twitter at Crowns and Crows. You can see it there live on the screen. All of our individual Twitter accounts is going to be below in the comment section on YouTube, or beneath this stream right now, or it should be soon as Valor Lakes actually does it. But other than that, thanks, guys. This is a great show. We'll see you, everybody, again tomorrow night, 9 o'clock Eastern, for a special episode where we sit around and do a roundtable with the devs, get all the juicy tidbits of information at. Hopefully they do not fall asleep on the couch that they're going to be sitting on talking to us, because I don't think they're going to be sleeping from now until then. So until tomorrow and until next Tuesday, good night, everybody, and thank you very much.